Happy days. The bloke from Birmingham didn't lie to us.
No.
Jug of oil. Look at that, finest 1040 oil. This is where we try not to spill it everywhere. A few moments later. That might take a while. Don't think we'll play this in real time.
No?
That's a long time.
People aren't watching all right now.
Air filter time. We already took the old one out, as you can see. Absolutely minging. Don't think that's been changed for quite some time, but I do think it's been changed because it's a high flow again. So we'll change it for like. So again, another filter. Throw that in there, just like so. Obviously, you've seen us change the oil filter and the oil. Just got to try and line this up. That's it. It's hooked in.
Nice.
Nice. Couple of screws. No, I don't think we're quite lined up there, mate. Happy days. Right, that's the air filter done. We'll move on to the spark plug very shortly, and then we've got to weld the exhaust. I've been putting it off all day. I need to do it. Right, let's all make that. Right, let's just see if we can tap it on. Beautiful, look at it. That's not a bad effort, look at that. I'm not the best welder in the world, but that will do. That's good enough. We'll just do the other side. Pleased with that. And I don't do welding. Right, so now we've done the exhaust and whatnot, we've done the oil filter and the oil. Now we've got to find a spark plug. It's down underneath this fuse box. We haven't took all this out. This came absolutely loose and ready to go. So we took that out. We're going to have to fluff around, try and figure out how that all goes back together. And the spark plug, you can't quite see, is down there in the middle of the screen. So we're going to pop that out there, change the spark plug. That's the service side done for now. And we're going to move on, bleed the rear brake, and go from there. Okay, not the worst in the world. We come round to make sure you can see it. Here we go. Not too bad. I suspect it's probably not been changed for a while though. There you'll see. Nice new one. Nearly dropped it. That would have done us the welder for good, eh? I mean, to thread it on in the first place would be a real idea. There we go. Right, we're in. So don't have to go too tight on these. They've got a little crush washer on them, and you'll feel it as soon as you've crushed that washer, and then just do a small little nip up on it. That's all it's going to need. I'm not going to torque that up to spec. You know, I'll never get anything down there, and it will never be right. If you use a torque wrench with an extension, you'll always not be too accurate. And just plug the coil pack back on. Nice solid click. That's the service side of things done now. We've done the air filter, done the oil filter, done the oil, done the spark plug. And now it's time to start building the rest of it up. We've got to bleed out the rear brake. The rear brake's doing absolutely nothing. We've obviously had the rear brake off, and we've done the new tyre on it here. But this brake pedal is doing absolutely nothing. So we'll get it back up in the air, we'll jack it up, pump it out, see if we can get any air out of the system, see if it comes working again, and we'll go from there for that one. Next job, we've got the rear brake not working at all. So there's a couple of things to do on this one. It's an ABS model. I'm not so sure. I don't think they're linked front to rear. I think it's just an ABS system. Bleeding a brake out on a dual brake system can be a little bit more problematic, or at least you got to use a different technique. So I'm just going to go with a standard technique on this one. Pump up the pedal, open up the brake nipple on the brake caliper, see if we get any air out, see if we can push some fluid through. Hopefully then we'll start to feel the pedal. At the moment, the back brake's not doing a thing. So you often find with bikes that have been standing around for a while that it doesn't do anything. So we'll see what we can do. We've got a reservoir up here. So there's a cap on here, and then there's a retaining clip for that cap as well. So we've just got to take that off. The purpose of that is to just stop the cap coming off. So you don't want that to unwind and then you lose all your fluid. So we'll get the clip off. That just retains the cap on there, stops that from spinning off and going down the road somewhere. Always make sure that this reservoir is filled up with brake fluid before you start pumping it. So we'll take the cap off, and then you have a plastic seal and then a rubber seal as well. What you don't want is any water contamination. And if I just grab my phone, hang on a sec, I don't want brake fluid on my phone. I'll show you. There we are. So it's quite dirty, probably never been changed again. So we'll flush all that through anyway. Pump this pedal up. We've got the waste bottle there, and then that comes out of the brake caliper nipple on there. So we'll see. I haven't cracked it off yet. Normally I like to use a socket on there first and crack the nipple off first. Otherwise sometimes you can put a spanner on it. They're prone to snapping anyway, but a quarter drive socket on there just to crack it off should do the trick. I don't see why it wouldn't, but we'll have a go. Just make sure it moves, and then we can put the waste pipe back on and then just use a spanner. All right, so we've gone from quarter drive going up to 3/8, and let's see if this nipple will move. As I said, they are prone to snapping, and this one's not moving, so we'll try 3/8. Oh yes. I'm just going to back it out a couple of turns and then back it back in again. If we just keep moving it a few turns each time, it cleans up the threads, and it means when we get a spanner on it, we can move it quite easily once the waste bottle's on there. This wasn't strong enough with the quarter drive. I don't really like putting too much pressure on these for obvious reasons, but there you are. It has served its purpose. So we shall put the spanner on. Waste pipe. We know we've got fluid, so we'll just pump up the pedal. And what we'll do is we'll hold it down, undo the brake nipple, you hear there's some air, do it back up again, and the same process. And already I feel like I've already got a pedal. So just to make sure, hold it down, open the brake nipple again, pedal goes down, load of fluid comes out, and we now have a brake. So what I'll do is off camera, we'll flush that fluid through. But yeah, back brake working, so happy days. And just on a side note, now we've done the rear brake, obviously you get some residue, you get some drips and things. The best thing to use to get rid of brake fluid all over your bike and car or whatever, obviously it's damaging for paintwork, it's quite a corrosive material. Just use water. It's a hygroscopic solution, so water repels it. So just rinse it off with water and it'll be absolutely fine. So we'll get the clip back on, and then that's the rear brake done. On to the next job. Right, coolant time. So I've got a jug of coolant into the radiator. There is an overflow bottle up there as well. All I'm interested in at the moment is just filling up the radiator. There is a bleed nipple on this as well, and that is this one here. I've already loosened it off, so we'll loosen that off now all the way. And what we'll do is we'll fill up the system. Just want to fill up the radiator for a minute and just make sure all the other hoses are going to hold water. And then once we get the bike running, we'll then obviously bleed it and check it again. And then the number one rule of when you're doing a coolant system is obviously you're going to get air in it, but also make sure that the coolant fan kicks in. Hopefully there's a temperature gauge up on the dashboard when it's running. But we've still got all the fuse box to put back in, and I've got a brand new battery for it as well. So let's get the coolant in, and then let's see what happens with that one, and then we'll hopefully then start getting the battery in and all the fuse box back in. Might even go for a proper start. I think we've only ran this for about 3.5 seconds, and that was without an exhaust, just to make sure that we had everything there. So let's get some coolant in it. Awesome. Hear the water spewing out. So we've got water coming out of the bleed nipple there, so we'll do that back up. Put the radiator cap back on. That's all I want to do for now. So bleed nipple done up, and then the radiator cap. There we are, Joe's on cleaning duty. Radiator cap on. Happy days. Right, we'll leave it at that for a minute because we'll have to run it up to temperature anyway. And then we'll go from there. Right, so we're just going to get the fuse box bolted down. We have noticed that one of a few bits and pieces on this bike are missing. It's been quite a task to try and find everything and also figure out what's missing. And there's a front panel that goes on over the top of this. That was missing altogether. Mirrors, again, are another problem. Mirrors are missing. So if anybody out there before we post this video has got any mirrors going, let me know. We don't want to be paying £69 each. But yeah, sure, if you've got any knocking around, let me know. And we'll get the fuse box bolted in. That means we then are ready to put the battery down on it as well. And it looks like we're ready to pretty much bolt the tank down as well, I think. We're very close. Very, very close. Even there's some special bolts for the seat that you push the seat onto, it hooks in. Even they were missing. So thanks to KTM World, they supplied those. Can't find anything hardly secondhand in terms of nuts and bolts. But I've never known. I don't even know why there's so many nuts and bolts missing, to be quite honest. It's crazy, but there you are. So we've got a new battery as well. So battery box in, new battery. We've got front indicators, rear indicators to do. Got a whole heap of stuff to go on with those. That's quite a big battery. Right, okay, so it looks like one of the earth wires routed slightly wrong. And again, we haven't done this. This was all apart when we got it, so trying to figure things out as we go. Now, I would have thought this battery wouldn't stand up the way it is, but I guess it is. But the only way it's going to fit, I think. And this is this comes from having bikes and stuff that you buy stuff that just is not quite there, and when they take it apart, they don't keep things together in a really good fashion. You got to try and do it so you don't damage anything. Earth-wise, a little bit rooted there. Right. Okay, so that's free. That should now fit into that. The live should fit onto that. Happy days. The new nuts and bolts for that. It's quite nice that we don't actually have a load of other additional nuts and bolts on this, in the sense of heated grips and stuff like that, because people put so many things on these terminals and then you struggle to get the bolts in. I might come back to this earth lead. I don't think it's quite exactly where it should be. We'll have to come back to that shortly, figure out what's going on. I'm just putting this on at the moment because there's a cover that goes over this. Again, another bit of fairing and a bit of cover that was missing altogether when we got it. So apparently some lad, he took it apart trying to fix it, and then we picked it up in a few pieces and whatnot. So I don't know how you get to the point of where you've taken it apart and you've got bits missing when you sell it on. I didn't even get a box of parts or anything, so we'll leave that on for a second. So I just want to see if the cover's going to fit. We've got the latch for that cover here as well, so that latch is in here. So let's see. So that latch is on underneath there. Never test fitted this one before, so hopefully it's going to be all right. Okay, kind of makes sense. And then the tank cover goes over that. Hopefully that's right. And then eventually the tank cover comes down. Happy days. Something like that. Good. Right, don't want to build up too much of that though, because like I say, we've got the indicators to sort out. Yeah, front and rear, unfortunately. Everybody seems to just ruin indicators and mirrors and all sorts, but nonetheless, right, batteries on, fuel pump, dashboard.
You got a rear brake light?
Have we got a rear brake light?
We have.
We do have a rear brake light. And the pedal one?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So we've got, that's it. So happy days. We'll have a look at the indicators next, and we can start putting all the fairings back together and all the seats back on, but we're still not going to need to do some wiring. People have been in here, done all sorts of bits and pieces with these connectors. I might use solder joints on them. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. And the front ones, I think, go through the front fairing. So at some point, we're going to fit the side fairing anyway. So see what happens. So we're holding coolant, we're holding oil. So yeah, I just left you looking at the battery, obviously, and we'll turn the ignition on. So we haven't done a start up yet. It looks like there's a service light that needs resetting on that. So we'll get onto that and try and get that sorted out. We'll better find the OBD port somewhere so we can do that. So right, we're now in neutral. We weren't in neutral. That could have been interesting. So first start then. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. You're as new to this as we are. Oh, okay, well, it'd be fuel to get through the system and stuff. Idling straight away. Yeah. Nice. Idle straight away. No messing about. Low fuel level warning, that's fine because we agree with that. There's not a lot of fuel in there.
No, noisy.
So we've obviously got there's an ABS light on there, but that's usually on before you do something like 10 to 15 mile an hour, and then that should go out as well. But we'll do that on the road test. So a little bit of smoke that we're not worrying about. You might see it on the camera. You'll see where we've been touching the exhaust and things like that. Try and get you an angle there. It's just where we've touched the exhaust. Hands have been on it and stuff. So that'll all burn off.